This is my watch list for Friday, April 17th. All right, what happened yesterday? We got that failure of previous all-time high on the Qs, 638. I talked about this in the pre-market session. It was also the failure of the previous day high, all right? So we got the failure of previous all-time high, failure of previous day high. I went short on this candle at 940. We got short here, and we got this massive candle down into 635. There were buyers holding there, and we exited perfectly near the bottom here. This was a beautiful trade. Another thing that I mentioned yesterday was the Tesla 383. Tesla 383 bounce. Look at this. Perfect, all right? It wicked below, reclaimed, and then wound up bouncing all the way back to over 390. The $7 bounce on Tesla there. Another thing that we talked about in the pre-market yesterday was this Apple 262 bounce, right? This also worked. Brett caught a nice piece of this. 262 bounce all the way back into 264.50. All right, so every setup that we talked about in the pre-market session yesterday worked beautifully, all right? So let's take a look at what's happening today. SPY is gapping up. Oh, surprise, surprise. Market's gapping up again, all right? We have to get rid of all of the short exposure. I mentioned this yesterday, right? Everyone who tried to short where I tried to short is getting squeezed, right? Once the squeeze is over, that's when the rug pull can come in, all right? When I think this happens soon, but I'm looking to short this for a swing at least once we pop into this zone up here, 705 to 710, all right? But let's just talk about today. Let's talk about today, okay? So today is OPEX, right? Today is the third month of April. The third Friday of April, and it's OPEX, right? So I'm expecting some volatility, lots of futures and options expiring on the same day, all right? Let's not get crazy, okay? We had a good session yesterday. We recovered from the loss on Wednesday. Let's not get crazy. Let's focus on quality setups, okay? So what would I watch on SPY today? SPY held the 698. This was the previous all-time high, okay? If we get back below 698, it's a short. All right. If not, we're at all-time highs. There's no levels up here for me to say, oh, let me take the 705 reject. Let me take the 706 reject. There's no levels up here for me to say that, right? We are in price discovery right now because we've never been up here before. This is all-time highs, okay? So the only thing that we can really watch is failures, right? If we get back under 698, this is a short. Absolutely, this is a short if we get back under 698. Or a potential bounce, right? The same thing that I said yesterday, 698 is either a bounce or a breakdown level. Yesterday it wound up being a bounce, okay? And the Qs. Qs are actually weaker than SPY. Qs are starting to get weaker than SPY. Tech is a bit weaker, okay? Same level as yesterday. If we get back below 638, this was the previous all-time high, then this is going to sell back into at least yesterday's low, right? 635. And then if we break 635, I don't have anything down to 630. Okay, so we can watch that same level as yesterday on the Qs, the 638. Break below that, we can look for failures. All right, let's jump into individuals. So Apple, I talked about this 262 level, and we wound up bouncing off the 262. This was a beautiful break above, retest, and now it's holding above 262. At this point, though, I don't really have anything on Apple. It was pretty weak yesterday. So if we get back below 262, this is actually a short. This turns into a short because all these buyers who are trying to buy the dip over 262 are going to get flushed out if we lose 262. They'll be forced to stop out, and this is going to sell back into 256, right? So that's the only potential trade I have on Apple today is if we actually fail that 262. You could look for holds there as well, but look at this hourly candle. Just so weak that momentum on that hourly candle yesterday, especially with market ticking into all-time highs, I would rather look for the short if we lose 262. All right. AMD crazy. AMD up 7.8%. I was initially watching for shorts on this yesterday, but they got news pre-market. All right, they got news pre-market. You look at the 5-minute, it absolutely ripped in the pre-market session. And then at that point, I was no longer watching shorts on this, right? It ripped, broke above pre-market high, and actually held that pre-market high. This wound up being, I think this was a 61.8 fib as well. Pretty close. Yeah, 262.30, and we bounced to 261.50, right? That 262 retested pre-market high. Yeah, that was a nice bounce on AMD. We're actually above all-time highs now. If we look at the 4-hour, Previous all-time high, there you go, right here, October 29th, 272. All right, we are above all-time high. AMD is insane. Look at this chart. AMD has made a $100 move in 2 weeks. All right, this name was trading at 190 on March 30th, and today we're at almost 280. Right, it's a $90 move in 2 weeks. Pretty overextended, right? That doesn't mean that I'm just going to short. Okay, if you wanted to look for shorts, it would have to be a failure of the previous all-time high, and this was also the pivot from yesterday's session. You guys see that 272, right? 272, we built above it. That was the previous all-time high, bounced off in the afternoon. This is going to get heavy eventually, you know. It's just way overextended. It's going to get heavy eventually, but we have to, you know, you can't just start shorting. You have to actually look for reversals, you know, failures. So if we get the failure of 272, then potentially we can look for shorts. Besides that, this is again also in price discovery mode. We're in all-time high, so maybe the break over 280, but I don't want to trade breakouts on a chart that looks like this at this point, right? That's just asking to take a loss, right? Especially with a name like AMD. AMD has crazy volatility. You know, it could trap people over 280 and then sell heavy. I'm not interested in that. I'd rather look for shorts under the failure of the previous all-time high, all right? Amazon, I'm not watching anything on Amazon today, guys. This is pretty overextended as well, also trading into supply. Let's see. Netflix reported earnings. Whoa, Netflix is getting slammed. Down 10.8% in the pre-market. I'm glad we took profit where we did. I took profit around 103, sold the rest up at the 200-day SMA around 106, and now we are completely failing that daily 200 SMA, okay? The report was, they beat earnings, right? But they guided weaker, and one of the co-founders is leaving Netflix, okay? So that's kind of why we're selling off here, down almost 11% now in the pre-market session. Where could you look for bounces on Netflix? Back down here at 90, right? This was the pivot from back here in March. And I would actually look for this intraday too. Right? This was a big level. You see these wicks over here. 90, if we get to 90 today, I'll look for bounces on Netflix, okay? We're at 96 right now. I mean, that's a big move, right? If you draw the trend from yesterday's high to 90, that's a 17% move, okay? So yeah, if we make a 17% move, I'm definitely going to buy this dip, all right? I don't think we sell much more than 17% on Netflix in a single session, all right? So that's something we can look for today. I don't think that happens, but it's something we can look for, or a potential swing off that 90, 91 even, which was the daily level here. 91 to 90, that's our demand, okay? So 91 to 90, demand, we can look for holds, bounces there, all right? Nvidia, check this out, all right? This is another name that's starting to get a little bit weak, right? I mentioned this yesterday. Here's the thing. 200 or 196, right? 200 or 196. Now, again, like, do I want to be taking breakouts of key psychological whole numbers like 200 when market's at all-time highs? Not really. I mean, not after seeing how overextended these names are, but I will in this particular example because it's already consolidated for a couple of days below 200. So I'm really watching one of two things. Do we get over 200? We can look for longs. Or do we get back below 196? I'm definitely looking for shorts if this happens, all right? We bounced there yesterday. We bounced there the day before. 196 was the previous big supply. We fell back below 196. I'm looking shorts back into 190, all right? If we break over 200, though, you know, I like this consolidation. I'll look for longs, right? I'll look for longs if we break over 200, okay? All right, Palantir almost back at supply. I'm not watching anything on this, though, but 148 was my big level. If you guys remember, 148 is huge, okay? So 148, I wouldn't be long into 148. If anyone is long Palantir right now, consider taking profit as we approach back into 148, okay? Tesla, I mentioned this yesterday, right? 383 bounce. This was that hourly level from back here, hourly level from back here, huge daily level, and we bounced off it perfectly yesterday. At this point, though, I'm not really watching anything on Tesla. You know, we broke out of the 368. This was a crazy trade Wednesday. We retraced yesterday. This was the bounce, and the moves already happened, right? The breakout happened, the retracement happened. Now what, right? Those are your two opportunities to take a trade: either the breakout, the retracement, or what, right? That's it. Okay. So that's my watch for today. Watching a few different things. SPY, the Qs. I'm watching Apple. I'm watching AMD. I'm watching Amazon. Sorry, not Amazon. I'm watching AMD, Apple, Netflix, and Nvidia. Those are my main watches today. Okay? All right. Let's have a great Friday. End this session. It's OPEX, so size down, and I'll see you guys on live.